Hi, this is Johnny Whitaker, and you're listening to TV Confidential.
Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. The Lone Ranger rides again.
Ed Robertson welcoming you back to TV Confidential, radio talk show about television that will shift gears this segment as we say hello to Ms. Dawn Moore. Dawn has enjoyed a very successful career as a marketer of fancy luxury things, which, if I understand it correctly, and Don will tell me if I got it wrong, ranges from such specific things as interior design, interior decorating, fine jewelry, and trade shows to more conceptual things such as influencer alliances and branding. As an expert in her field, Dawn Moore has appeared on E!, Entertainment Tonight, CBS News, Extra, and Access Hollywood. Plus, she's been quoted in the LA Times, the Hollywood Reporter, the New Yorker, and other fine publications. Dawn Moore is also the daughter of Clayton Moore. Clayton Moore, the actor known around the world of 3 generations of television viewers as the Lone Ranger, a character whose values Dawn's dad embodied for more than 40 years, long after the Lone Ranger TV series went off the air. We happened to meet Dawn Moore a couple weeks ago at the opening night ceremonies for the new Roy Rogers exhibit at the Hollywood Museum. Dawn was kind enough to accept our invitation to come on our program this week to share some memories about her dad. Dawn Moore, welcome to TV Confidential.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This will be fun.
Yes. We were talking before we formally started recording. I think it's very cool that one of the things you do as part of your business is branding. And branding, for those who aren't familiar with the term, basically you don't do anything, you don't say anything that is not in step with the message you want to convey as a person, or you want your product to convey. So everything is done in line with that message. And that is essentially what your dad did the last 40 years of his life. With all the personal appearances he did as the Lone Ranger, he always did it in character, and he always stayed true to what that character embodied to him. I don't know whether the fact that you entered branding is just a coincidence, or maybe some of what your father did rubbed off on you and said, I want to do this.
First of all, I have to give you tremendous credit. You are literally the only person who's threaded that needle.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Other than me, of course. But I will tell you, I started my career in luxury retail. So at Christmas, as a matter of fact, and I don't know when you're going to air this episode, but it's almost Christmas now.
Okay.
So I came up through the ranks. But I watched my father over my entire lifetime, of course, doing radio interviews, doing talk shows, doing personal appearances, and I watched him very carefully craft his answers and control the questions. And controlling the questions was, I think, one of my biggest lessons. It didn't matter, even when he was 80, and I would watch him do radio interviews on the phone. He had notes. And this is a pro. This isn't about not remembering things. This is making sure you have dates and names and films and locations at the ready. He always deferred any kind of question that involved asking about his wife or his children, if he had any children. He always deflected, and he said, we're here to talk about the Lone Ranger. And that is exactly branding. I watched him do that for my entire life. I never pieced together that that's really what he was doing, but in hindsight, yeah, 100%. 100%. So it's interesting to me, and to your point about whether I chose that as a career. No, I didn't. What I chose as a career was convincing people to do things, right? So if you're in retail, you are essentially selling, and selling is convincing. The convincing part was always more interesting to me than actually taking anyone's money.
Yeah.
So that is where absolutely we can definitely make the connection there, because I sat at the feet of the master.
And look, to borrow a phrase, the proof is in the pudding. The fact that 3 generations of viewers still embody the values that your father embodied throughout his life, and many people have entered careers of service because of the values he conveyed when he played the Lone Ranger or when he appeared in person and talked to them.
That actually is probably the most extraordinary thing to me about my father and my father's career. And I was kind of put on the spot at a Memphis Film Festival on Dad's centennial, and I was on a panel, and I was asked by an audience member, what do you think your father's legacy is? And I had never been asked that up until that moment, and I hadn't thought about it. And it literally came to me that it was in the fan letters from the policemen and from firemen and from teachers and from even clergymen, all of whom said that they chose careers of service, exactly as you noted, because of Dad's, not just his performance, but who he was as a person. And honestly, I don't know if it gets any better than that.
Dawn Moore is on the line with us. Dawn Moore, daughter of Clayton Moore, the actor known around the world to 3 generations of television viewers as the Lone Ranger. Dawn has enjoyed a very successful career as a marketer of fancy luxury things. You can learn more about what Dawn does by going to her website, mooreabout.com, and that, of course, is MOORE, mooreabout.com. When did you first realize that your dad was a little more famous than most of the other dads at school?
Oh gosh, ironically, we were buying a television. I think that was kind of funny. I was maybe 9, and we were at a local Southern California department store called the Broadway. For anyone who lives in Southern California, they might remember the Broadway. And we were shopping for a television, and my father was asking the salesperson a bunch of questions. And the salesperson, midway through this diatribe of questions, said, "Hey, your voice sounds so familiar." And it literally all of a sudden dawned on them who it sounded like, because, my father had a very distinctive voice, obviously, right?
Yes.
So she asked if he was the Lone Ranger, and of course at that moment he loved fans. He was very kind to fans, but I was looking at it saying, how do you know who he is? Why are you asking that? I mean, it totally befuddled me.
Well, and I can understand why, because from what I've learned about your dad when he was not in front of the camera, when he was just at home, he liked to have fun. He was the first person to jump in the pool. And some of the people he would invite over to the house, like Johnny Weissmuller, you may not have known that they were in the movies. He was just Dad's friend Johnny.
My father was a big kid, 100%. He absolutely was all about having fun. Thank God my mother, was okay having the disciplinarian role in the house. or maybe she wasn't. Honestly, I guess in hindsight, I don't really know if she was okay with it or not, but she got saddled with it. Dad was everybody's buddy. He was absolutely everybody's, and all the kids wanted to come to the house, not because he wasn't the Lone Ranger at home, but it was the big kid who would play walrus in the pool or help you learn how to play baseball or teach you how to ski down the street in the snow. And he was the first one out there doing the fun stuff. Yeah, he was and a trickster. And a big jokester.
Dawn Moore is on the line with us. Dawn Moore, daughter of Clayton Moore, the actor known around the world to 3 generations of TV viewers as the Lone Ranger. Calendar year 2024 and the 2024-2025 television season, believe it or not, marks the 75th anniversary of the premiere of the Lone Ranger on television. That's kind of staggering to think about, but it just goes back to all the various people from all walks of life and all ages who remember the impact your dad had on them growing up, and how I would imagine it has to feel good to know that when people come up to you to know that your father continues to have an impact?
Well, it definitely feels good to know if they come up to me, they're not mad. You never know these days. Everybody's mad about something.
That's
but
true.
no one's mad at Dad. That's for sure.
True.
Yeah, I have to tell you that the really cool thing that's happened recently is the Lone Ranger Fan Club Facebook page is just really extraordinary and filled with a lot of very, very, very kind people and people who not just are Clayton Moore fans, but are fans of the character. And it was brought to my attention that there is a young boy by the name of Tucker Thompson who had gone to his history class dressed as the Lone Ranger, as the historical person day, in their historical person day at school. And when I saw the video of him in the costume, but talking about being Clayton Moore, not talking about being the Lone Ranger, and that was the big distinction. He was very specific. His presentation was very noble, and it was very articulate. And it really brought tears to my eyes because here it is, and this was a couple of years ago, so here it is, 2022 or whatever it was, and there's a 8-year-old boy talking about being the, Clayton Moore, not being the Lone Ranger, being Clayton Moore on Historical Persons Day at school. And I thought, that is what it's all about right there. It really was so moving, and to play a big part in a local museum. Anyone who's interested in kind of digging a little further, Lone Ranger Fan Club on Facebook, he and his mother Emily are members, and it's just an extraordinary thing. So that part of it, yeah, that feels amazing. That's the fun part for me.
Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to you by PrisonFit. PrisonFit, a new, comprehensive, and integrated approach to exercise, food, and employment that was developed by prisoners, for prisoners, parolees, and anyone else listening to this program who would like to improve their overall health and well-being. You can learn more about PrisonFit by going to prisonfitlife.com. PrisonFit's mission is to create work, programs, and partnerships that will provide both incarcerated inmates and released or paroled individuals with meaningful employment, training, rehabilitation, and reentry opportunities while treating them with dignity and respect. PrisonFit's main program, Introduction to Small Business, not only has graduated more than 500 in-prison students, but has produced a 2-year released graduate recidivism rate of 6.7%. PrisonFit will expand its Introduction to Small Business program on a statewide basis in 2025, and this is where you can help. PrisonFit is conducting a Kickstarter campaign throughout the month of January 2025 to offer the public various fitness publications and products. The proceeds from this campaign will not only complete and launch these publications and products, but will provide the necessary resources for PrisonFit's statewide in-prison Introduction to Small Business course. For more information, go to prisonfitlife.com and click on the Go to Kickstarter button. That's prisonfitlife.com. Click on the Go to Kickstarter button. prisonfitlife.com. Click on the Go to Kickstarter button, or go to kickstarter.com and search for PrisonFit.
Hey friend, I hope you know this is Pat Boone, and you and I are enjoying TV Confidential with my buddy Ed.
We mentioned before, Dawn has enjoyed a very successful career in marketing and designing, and though she did not necessarily seek a career in the world of entertainment herself, there have been many times in the course of what Dawn does, such as the time she met Elizabeth Taylor in 1999 as part of the print and TV campaign for the White Diamonds fragrance line, when Dawn's work has crossed over into the world of showbiz. You can learn more about what Dawn does by going to mooreabout.com, M-O-O-R-E, mooreabout.com. What was it like to meet Elizabeth Taylor?
She is just fabulous. Everything you have ever read about this woman, she was 2 hours late. She came in with her dog who peed all over the floor. It was exactly as anticipated. And had it not been that, I would have been disappointed. She was every single thing that you've read about. Mm-hmm. She was kind. She was professional. She was a dame. She was, at the end of the photo shoot, she was actually in a lot of pain. She came in on a wheelchair for the shoot. But the reason I bring that up is to say, of course, everyone on this commercial wanted a photograph of Elizabeth Taylor, who worked with her that day. Mm-hmm. And she sat there, and every single person just kind of came in and out of frame, and the photographer quickly took pictures of everyone, yes, including me. But I remember I leaned in, and just how incredibly professional she was and kind. And she said, and I don't know I don't remember exactly what I said something about being jealous of her diamond or something. I don't know what it was. And she said, "Oh, you witch." But it was only the two of us that could hear that, right? Yeah. We were both whispering and not moving to get the photograph. She just was amazing. Those kinds of moments are what's really extraordinary about being able to have had the career I had. So.
And it's cool because, as we mentioned before, even though both your mom and your dad worked in show business, and they had show business friends, so you were not wowed easily, and yet when Taylor made her entrance that day, you felt a frisson. That was cool. That was cool to learn.
Oh, are you kidding? Elizabeth Taylor? I mean, I got to meet Michael Jackson. I mean, I was with Michael Jackson sitting on the floor of his closet with him, the two of us alone in his closet. Mm-hmm. I mean, I got super lucky in my career. And those are just really extraordinary, memories. And weirdly, those were not things So, P.S. to the story about Elizabeth Taylor and taking the photograph.
Okay.
I get the photograph. Of course, it gets all retouched because it's Elizabeth Taylor. Although she did not need retouching. Let me point that out. She didn't need any retouching, but it did anyway. So I get my copy and I bring it home to Dad to show it to him because I'm over the moon, of course. Mm-hmm. And I got to meet Elizabeth Taylor, and I had my photograph taken with her, and the photograph was taken by the world-renowned Herb Ritz. So, and I get to the house, and I'm so excited, and I want to show Dad, and I take the picture out, and I don't say anything. I just hand it to him. I said, "Dad, look, this is so exciting." And he goes, "Oh, that's nice." And he goes, "That's the Taylor girl." and I'm like, "Yeah, it's Elizabeth Taylor. What do you mean it's the Taylor girl?" And he goes, he goes, "Well, that's what I said."
That's funny.
And I thought, okay, all right, this is not a big deal to you. It's a big deal to me. It was so funny to me that he was just so nonplussed by the Taylor girl. The yes. Taylor girl. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Dawn Moore is on the line with us. Dawn Moore, daughter of Clayton Moore, and one of the leading and most diversified professionals in the luxury industry. The 2024-2025 television season marks the 75th anniversary of the premiere of The Lone Ranger. We'll take a quick time out. We'll talk some more with Dawn about her father's legacy when we come back here on TV Confidential.